flight had barely left the runway when Rowan Hale realized he was too exhausted to keep his eyes open, yet too tense to relax. His 6-year-old son, Arlo, had finally drifted off beside him after weeks of restless nights. They were flying to a new city once again, another move, another attempt for Rowan to rebuild what life kept tearing apart. But 1,000 feet above the ground, as sunlight cut through soft morning clouds, something unexpected happened. Something that would change the course of both their lives. A woman in a sharp white blazer, with tired eyes hiding behind expensive glasses, leaned ever so slightly toward Rowan. And before he could move, her head gently settled on his shoulder, as if it were the one safe place she had been searching for without knowing it. She was a stranger. Polished, powerful-looking, impossibly calm. And yet here she was, sleeping on him as though the universe itself had placed her there. Rowan didn't know her name, her world, or her battles. But he sensed something unspoken in the way she exhaled, something fragile breaking beneath all that strength. He had no idea that the woman resting on him was among the youngest CEOs in the country. Or that the moment she woke up would rewrite their destinies in a way neither of them were ready for. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of unexpected connections, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Acts of Kindness. Your support keeps these real feeling stories alive. Her name was Mara Ellington, though Rowan didn't know it yet. Millions of people recognized her face from business magazines and news segments, but right now she wasn't a corporate titan. She was simply a woman who looked deeply, quietly tired. The kind of tired money could not cure. The kind of tired Rowan understood far too well. For years he had worked any job he could to take care of Arlo, giving up dreams, sleep, and sometimes meals just to stay afloat. Life had pushed him into more corners than he could count. Late notices, unpredictable schedules, moving from city to city when rent spiked. Yet he never complained. He had Arlo, and that mattered more than anything. Today's flight wasn't for leisure. It was for yet another job interview in a new city, one he desperately needed to secure some kind of stability. As Mara slept, Rowan noticed her fingers loosen around the phone resting on her lap. A message glowed on the screen, words bold enough for his tired eyes to catch. Board rejected new proposal. Press waiting to attack. Don't show weakness. The sentence struck him deeply. The world expected her to be flawless, unbreakable, machine-like. And yet she was human enough to fall asleep on a stranger's shoulder. The thought softened him. Maybe strength wasn't what people thought it was. Maybe strength was letting yourself rest in unfamiliar places when your soul couldn't hold any more. Turbulence jolted the plane slightly and Mara stirred awake. For a moment she seemed disoriented, her gaze darting from the sunlight to the clouds to the warmth beneath her cheek. When she realized she had been sleeping on Rowan's shoulder, her controlled expression shifted into embarrassment, almost panic. She straightened but not abruptly, as though unsure how to pull away from the comfort she had borrowed. She murmured a quick apology, barely audible, but Rowan could sense there was much more behind it. He offered a small, reassuring nod, the kind strangers exchange when both carry quiet burdens. For the next few minutes, silence stretched between them, not awkward but curious. Mara seemed troubled, her thoughts heavy like the thick layer of clouds beneath them. She was used to being observed, judged, expected to lead perfectly. Rowan didn't recognize her fame, and that alone startled her. He treated her not like a CEO, but like a passenger who had simply fallen asleep because life had worn her down. When Arlo woke up and sat upright, rubbing his eyes with both fists, Mara's sharpness softened instantly. Children had that effect on her. At one point in her life, she thought she would have a family, but her rise to success had demanded every scrap of time she possessed. Arlo whispered to Rowan that he was hungry. Rowan's heart sank. He had packed snacks, but in the rush of the morning, he had left the bag at home. Mara noticed his hesitation, his worry buried under a forced smile. Without a word she opened her own bag and offered Arlo a small packet of crackers. Not lavish, not fancy, just simple kindness. Arlo accepted eagerly, and Rowan thanked her with a sincerity that lingered in the air between them. As the hours passed, the cabin filled with daylight, illuminating things that were easier to hide in shadows. Rowan's worn-out backpack, his patched jacket, the wary lines under Mara's eyes that no amount of makeup could fully mask. They were sitting inches apart yet living worlds away. One climbing the mountain of corporate power, the other clawing his way out of financial insecurity. And yet, something about this morning, this altitude, this accidental closeness, began to blur the dividing lines. Eventually, Rowan's phone died, and Mara noticed him checking it anxiously as if holding onto it kept him anchored. She offered him her portable charger. That small act became the bridge that finally opened a story between them. Rowan, not one to overshare, explained they were moving again. Another job offer that wasn't guaranteed. Another try at building stability for his son. Mara listened more intently than she had listened to any board meeting in years. She could feel the sincerity in his words, the weight he carried alone. He wasn't bitter, just tired. And she envied that. All her success, and yet she never felt the peace he had in loving someone as deeply as he loved Arlo. The plane began its descent. Sunlight painted the horizon gold and pink, spilling into the cabin like a promise of renewal. Mara's heartbeat was unsteady with a sense of urgency she didn't understand. She couldn't let this moment pass without acknowledging its meaning. She had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her. Deals, signatures, decisions. But this man wanted nothing except for his son to have a stable life. That purity struck her. Before she could speak, she received a message from her assistant. Interview candidates for new community initiative postponed. CEO must approve final list today. Her eyes widened slightly. That initiative was her own project. Funding jobs for single parents and struggling families. They were narrowing candidates to just a handful. And sitting next to her was a man who embodied everything the program was meant for. She didn't tell him immediately who she was. Instead, she observed him as he helped Arlo zip his small jacket, as he tucked a loose curl behind the boy's ear, as he whispered something that made the child smile. Compassion lived in every movement he made. When they landed, passengers rushed to disembark, but Mara remained still for a moment, gathering courage for something she had never done spontaneously, follow her heart rather than her schedule. As they walked toward baggage claim, she finally told him her name. Rowan froze. He had seen her company's billboards, of course. He had seen her logo everywhere. But it never occurred to him that the woman offering snacks to his son was the same person whose decisions influenced thousands of jobs. He felt suddenly small, almost apologetic for speaking so openly earlier. But Mara gently stopped that emotion before it grew. She told him she admired his honesty, his resilience, and the way he loved his child. She said the world needed more men like him, strong in the ways that actually mattered. Then came the moment that left Rowan speechless. Mara offered him a position in her community initiative, not as charity, but because she believed he deserved stability, dignity, and a chance to grow. She offered training, childcare support, and relocation assistance. Rowan's throat tightened, his vision blurring slightly. He had never been given anything without strings. But this felt like a door opening where every other door had slammed shut. Arlo hugged Mara without hesitation, as if sensing she was a safe harbor in their storm. For the first time in years, Rowan felt hope settle into his chest. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Acts of Kindness. Your engagement helps these emotional stories reach more people who need them. Special request, comment, hope finds us in unexpected places. If you believe in the power of small moments that change lives. As Rowan and Arlo walked away with new possibilities waiting ahead, Mara watched them disappear into the bustling airport crowd. She had stepped onto that flight as a CEO burdened by pressures, expectations, and endless responsibilities. She walked off it as someone who remembered what humanity felt like. Above the clouds, something inside her had broken open, letting light in where walls once stood. And though their worlds were different, their hearts had collided in the most unexpected moment. A moment of rest, compassion, and silent understanding. A moment that reminded both that kindness, even accidental, can alter the course of a life forever.